We're ready to start.
Yeah, you mean president.
Whatever, we could put that on it too, I didn't even get that. Pete doesn't get any backup.
Okay, we're ready to get started. Charlie's the chairman, he's telling you to get started.
Thank you. All right, briefly, before we get started with the agenda items, I just want to hand out, the Bureau is going to be having a Habitat Day up on Game Lands 310. That's in coordination with the Southeast region and 210. And wanted to hand out the pamphlet there. And we've got quite a few hunting partners, hunting groups that have already signed up for the tour, and hopefully over the next few weeks we'll fill out the roles there. But it seems like it's taken on a life of its own, and had a lot of interest. Had a lot of interest already, so I just wanted to bring that up, just to make everybody aware that we were going to be doing this up on Game Lands 210.
Hey, man, did you get my draft agenda?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Anything good on it?
No.
What would be the possibility of, like me bringing a class of 20 kids, or is that gonna be too many? Is that not what your audience is?
And you'll have your own bus or means of that should be fine.
I'll talk to you.
Absolutely. And with the burning that was recently done in the Southeast region, really happy to hear that we're over the 6,000 acre mark for the year burned so far. And there's a bunch of other burn plans out there. There'll be some fall burning as well, so we're well on our way to meeting some of our habitat goals, and there's been some great results already. The ADA self-evaluation update, and that's been a pretty interesting process so far. Right now, some of my staff in the regions are coordinating and looking at what game lands have roads. Some game lands actually don't have roads. They're river islands. They're relatively small game lands. So we're weeding through those numbers right now. Regional staff they're aware of, and they're beginning to pull together the data, making sure their data is up to date. Some of the comprehensive, and we'll get to that in a minute, but some of the comprehensive game lands plans that were done perhaps 6, 7, 8 years ago, there's some incomplete data there. That was prior to us having GIS specialists in the regions. And we just didn't have everything pulled together on one server, and there was really no singular effort being put forth to make sure that there was good QC and ensuring that the data is quite what we need. So we're pulling that together right now, and we're on our way with that. We're trying to determine, some of our roads, see what their status is. Are they open to travel year-round? Are they open seasonally? Do they already have disabled hunter trails? And we do have those on numerous game lands. And ultimately, once we get to the next level, finding out what the road conditions are, looking at habitat resources that may be impacted if we continue to open more of these roads up. As we all know, some of our roads, they're really not a road, they're more of a trail, grassy, muddy. There's safety concerns because of steep ledges and things like that along the sides of them. So we've got to wade our way through all that, but we're certainly on our way to making sure that we're meeting some goals there. Any questions on ADA or self-evaluation? Okay. The alternative uses of state game lands, there's a meeting coming up this week. It'll be on Thursday. So we've got everybody on board to take a harder look at game lands and the uses that are impacting game lands. Some of the things that we've been doing within the Bureau, we've created new signage to better delineate what areas are open and closed to horseback riding, mountain bike riding, things like that, snowmobiles, sort of the things that are hitting our game lands harder than others. And hopefully we can start to squash some of the complaints that we've had, some of the issues that we've had. And I know with the enforcement efforts that we've had in the regions, I think this will go a long way in deterring some of those activities. The new signage, it's a little more vibrant. The old signs were a little small triangle. These are larger. They're about 4 by 8. Right now we're evaluating cost of whether or not to send them out and get printed or print them in-house. And ultimately, I think it's sending the message out about what you can and actually cannot do. The other thing is we're working, again, with the regions and identifying Gameland's gates and access points. And right now, if you look on our website, the definition of a road that's open, or the identity of a road that's open to, say, mountain bike riding, would be drive along a certain road, and it's the brown gate on the right-hand side of the road, approximately 3 miles from the nearest town. Well, if you're driving there and you're looking for the brown gate somewhere on the side of the road, it's very hard to distinguish whether it's that gate that you just passed, it's the next one up. So we're working to identify those gates, and there'll be a numeric, obviously. The state Gameland number is how we're going to start it. So Gameland's 289, for instance, and then there'll be a dash and whatever gate number it is. But then we can, it'll be on the ground. There's a lot of benefits there, not only to identify what roads and trails are open to other uses, but from a safety standpoint. We've had individuals just recently in the Northeast region within the last year or so. Individual was at a gate or half a mile behind a gate and got struck by a rattlesnake and was starting to feel, like he was going to go unconscious. And the only thing he could say was, I'm past the rifle range at a gate. This way, hopefully in time we'll start to educate people, number one, that they're on a Gamelands, because they'll see this number popping up on each and every gate and signboard that they come across. And I think that's pretty darn important. But also what gate they're at. Eventually we'll have it tied into our own computer systems, and with the data sharing we've been doing with the counties, we can get that out to the county 911 centers, because if we're not on duty, they'll be able to get people out there if there's a lost hunter, if there's someone that's injured. I think it's going to go a long way to really helping us in our cause. And again, tying that all into the identification of certain areas that are open to snowmobiles, horseback, things like that. I think it's going to go a long way to starting to squash some of those concerns.
Have we worked on any fresh signage to identify the purchasers of the Gamelands, and the fact of, something to the effect that purchase, by the Pennsylvania Game Commission with hunting license dollars, be respectful of the property? Anything? Have we done anything?
That was last year. Yeah, that was almost a year ago now.
Yeah.
That signage started to come out.
But have we put them out? That's the question.
Oh,
Have we gotten
absolutely.
them out? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, those have been popping up all around the regions.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly. And I think that's a great message to get out there. And that's why, the tie-in again with, the access points and gates, I really want to get people starting to think about, this is a Gameland. This is different than some of the other kind of vacant land that you're driving past as you're going to and from Gamelands, and that they can identify with, the Pennsylvania Game Commission, Gamelands 12, 289, whatever it is, and they can start to look up some of the documentation, maybe the comp plan, maybe trying to determine what other activities can take place lawfully on those Gamelands. But right now it's very difficult for people to identify. All they know is I'm up on the Gamelands, and they don't know it's Gamelands 57. They just know it's a Gamelands. So I think this is going to help us tremendously going forward. Any questions? Okay, the update on state Gamelands planning, and I apologize, but the font is rather small, but I'll give the best explanations that I can.
I think he's dealing with 20-year-olds.
Hey, Bob, I'll hold this here for you.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, just so y'all can see, here it is. This is what they want us to read today.
There you go, Mr.
Wait a minute, I think I got it upside down. There it is.
So essentially, back in 2006, we started comprehensive Gamelands planning. And as you can see, we're 84% cover mapped, and we're 66% of the way with plans approved. A lot of the issues that we've had was obviously turnover and staffing, both, and this brings together collaboration amongst a lot of different disciplines, the biologists that are in the regions, also the regional and the field foresters, as well as the land management staff. So the exciting thing about it is that we've got 84% cover map. That means, the forest lands are cover map. We can identify, the age structure and composition of the forest, also the herbaceous openings, and we're well on our way. We're better than 2/3 of the way to having all the plans approved. And there's enough in the works right now that hopefully, that number will be up tremendously before the end of next year. But so comprehensive plans, for those of you that don't know, they highlight future forest activities, and it's really been a part of the way we've changed our game land systems and made things, in my opinion, a lot more appealing to wildlife. We're going to larger landscape level types of habitat improvement, whether it's prescribed fire or forestry activities. We're also looking at rights of ways and easements across the game lands and taking a harder look at those and the way they're managed. So comp plans have really gone a long way to helping people to identify the issues that are present on the game lands and where we're going to launch it and take it to in the future. So we're, again, some regions, are in a little different boat than others, but some of them are 86% of the way completed with their comp plans. The region that has a lesser number has been just overwhelmed with OGM issues, natural gas issues, and that's held them back some because they've dedicated so much additional time towards OGM activities. But they're well on their way to moving forward as well. So I think that number is going to be dramatically different again in the coming year. There's some things coming online. Game lands 57 up in the Northeast. Well, that's like 50,000 acres of game lands. So that's going to move us forward tremendously as well. But that's where we are with the comp plans, as we're getting ready to do the rewrites on some of the initial ones that we've done, and looking at, again, landscape level change and impacts that we're trying to facilitate on the game lands. So there's some really great projects out there, and a lot of those got kicked off because of a comp plan meeting that, a field forester, a biologist, and a land manager were out in the field just kind of kicking around the game lands for the day, trying to determine what the best course of action was, and it set us in a pretty good place. Any questions on comp plans?
Yeah, sure.
And the last agenda item is there another copy there?
Brian.
The last agenda item was, I guess there was a comment or a question that came up at one of the recent commission meetings about projects that were not getting done, and obviously Pima tuning is at the forefront of that, and but that's not the only one out there, and so we put together a brief list of some of the higher priority items that are basically left off the table at this point because of some budgetary concerns. And you can see there's things like the Pima tuning Wildlife Learning Center, renovations at the North Central Regional Office, renovations at the South Central Regional Office, repairs to the existing headquarters here, and I wasn't aware of this, I found this out just in the last few weeks, that there's a leak up front that is causing all sorts of structural concerns at the entranceway. Haldeman's Island, some work out there, Loyalsock Game Farm, and the Food and Cover Crew headquarters. And obviously that's something that's near and dear to my heart. Not that all these other ones aren't. but the food and cover crew headquarters, some of those are in the, in fact, there's about 7 of them that are in the old Armco buildings, and those are like vintage 1960s buildings with 1960s technology, you know, leaky roofs, and you know, the metal siding and everything is either rusting or in disrepair, and obviously the costs there to heat and cool these places are pretty tremendous. So those are some of the larger projects, and you know, those projects cost about $250,000 to $300,000 total. But you know, the list keeps going. It's not just, you know, all of these buildings that need to be worked on, but you know, you look at roadways and bridges. You know, there's a lot of places that had culverts in them for the longest time. We tried to transition the bridges just so that we've got a natural free-flowing waterway, and trying to keep the maintenance costs down, because you know, these larger culverts tend to jam up with, you know, rocks and twigs and sometimes trees, depending on the flooding that we've got. So we've got that continuous list of items out there. But again, HVAC systems that we've tried to install. Roadways, we've got, you know, 3,800 miles of maintained roadways, and some of those are improved and maintained through some of the logging contracts that we've got, but a lot of those are actually work done by the Food and Cover Corps, making sure that, you know, there's enough stone on them, that they're mowed if they're grassy strips, and all the other associated work with them. Shooting ranges, you know, there's lead recovery that we've talked about in the past. Dam replacement, you know, we've got some fairly large impoundments across the game land system, and there's just ongoing maintenance with those and associated costs. And again, there's 38,000 bridges and culverts on our game land road network, so you can imagine the amount of time and effort that it costs to continue to upgrade those. And over time, you know, we used a system of, you know, if one culvert wasn't good enough, let's just plunk another culvert in right next to it, and that will certainly take care of it. Well, in the short term it did. In the long term, it created a dam for us, because trees and other things would get clogged in them, and it created all sorts of dilemmas for us. So we've been trying to move forward, and we're replacing about 20 bridges per year and about 150 culverts per year. But again, budget shortfalls, you know, a lot of that's going to have to be curtailed. We'll utilize some monies from some of the logging that we're doing, and some of the timber sales to improve some of those roads and fix some of those bridges. But you know, that's not the answer. The answer is trying to take care of many of these in advance of those timber sale operations, to avoid roads being blown out and washed away on us.
So any of these projects that are on here, where they talk about being scrapped altogether, is there a time frame for like the regional office work to start? The small infrastructure projects, are they just ongoing?
You know, a lot of these are ongoing, but they're going to be scaled back tremendously. We're going to have to work with the executive office and DOT to determine, you know, whether or not, you know, any of these make it to the priority list, you know, year after year, just trying to see where we are as far as the budget's concerned. But you know, another year clicks by, more issues on some of these, you know, buildings. You know, it's like, how long can you wait until you can actually move in and take care of them?
Right.
It would occur to me that, you know, issues like replacing the building, lobby, you know, the lobby roof over here, would be a priority, in that it's creating structural damage in the building. This is a, you know, showpiece of the game commission, and that shouldn't be on the wait list. That, you know, that funding should be found somewhere to repair it and replace it. And I'm sure that there's some insurance money available also if there's damage already caused by a leak in the roof, so.
Except we're self-insured, so we don't get insurance.
Then that doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, that's a project that, you know, I can see the construction of Pymatuming, I can see some of these other new construction projects, I can see putting them on the back burner for a while, but maintenance items can't be put off. In the end, they come up and they cost you more money in the end.
Sure.
I wouldn't want to say it.
Well, and, you know, and I'm not an advocate for anything specifically, but you're looking at that the purchase of the South Central Regional Office. I mean, you're going to have a building sitting there empty for how long? At what point do we want to just try to encourage somebody else to take that off our hands, or move ahead with it, or, you know, whatever the case may be? Because in the long run, you're going to end up potentially spending more money on a project than what we wanted to begin with.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues, and it comes down to financial. What can we afford to do, and what can't we afford to do?
Yeah, I will be an advocate for one of them, getting back to his South Central Regional Office. We've got the school, right?
Yes.
And so we've got to renovate, until we renovate it, we can't move into it.
Correct.
So I would assume that that would be pretty high on the priority list.
Be high on my priority list, that's,
That's high on mine.
Yeah, again, I mean, it's either do it or get rid of it, I
Yep.
mean, at some point. Sorry, Brad.
oh, Brad likes to hear you say that, trust me.
Do it or get rid of it? Do it.
No, he likes to do it part,
Yeah, I
trust
know.
me.
Because, I mean, there's gonna be ongoing maintenance costs anyway, you have to keep it heated in the winter.
Right.
I'm assuming,
And basically now we're caring for two buildings instead of
right,
one.
absolutely.
Right. Good.
Okay.
And that's all I got.
Questions for Pete? Good. Thanks,
Yeah,
Pete.
you're gonna take over.
I am, is Steve here?
Yeah, he's hiding back there.
Steve Smith, come on down.
Thanks, Pete.
Borrow back the agenda for you. What do we have first? Where's your agenda? Wayne took it.
Pretty bad we can't even get an agenda around here, let alone a parking spot.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Hey, you got lunch?
All right, we're gonna go to the information education portion of this, meeting. So Steve, I think we're gonna get an update on the, hunter safety course first.
Yes, Commissioner, that's correct. This was in response to Commissioner Daly. Him and I exchanged a few emails a couple weeks back, and he asked for an update on where we are with the advanced hunter-trapper education courses. So to give that presentation is Andy Huser. He's a hunter-trapper ed specialist. Andy, if you're ready, it's yours.
Afternoon, everybody. Commissioner Daly had requested an update just on the status of the advanced courses, so I will walk you through that right now. What I have for you here is some historical data, and then some of the things that we have planned for the future, some of the challenges that we've encountered so far, and some things we can take from that. So, first course we'll look at is successful bow hunting. This is the oldest one that we have for the advanced series of courses, launched in 2001. Since then, we've certified 7,133 students. Since the course is now required in Pennsylvania, obviously to bow hunt, most of those students were interested in using that certification to hunt out of state in states that do require it. So New York, for example, is one of those states that does that. And currently we have 279 instructors that are certified to teach this course type. So right here we have a graph that shows the number of student graduates and the number of classes that have been held since the program began. Student graduates are represented by the bars and correspond to the axis on the left. The red line represents the number of classes, and they correspond to the axis on the right. So I had Corin take a look at some of this data here, and she came back with the fact that there is a significant positive relationship between the number of courses held and the number of student graduates. That's not all that shocking, because if you think about it, obviously you put a course on the ground, students show up, you have more graduates. What we can see here when we look at this is there was some latent interest back in the early 2000s of people that really wanted the certification, and we didn't offer it. When we began to offer it, we sort of met that demand, and we've been kind of steady ever since about 2006. Cable restraints, the next one. We launched this course in 2005. Since then, we've certified 8,339 students. It's the most attended advanced course, mainly because it is a legal requirement to set cable devices in Pennsylvania. And we have 221 instructors who are certified to teach this course type at the current time. When you take a look at this graph, it's again the same. The bars represent student graduates. The red line represents the number of courses. This has the strongest correlation between classes offered and student graduates. So what this means is that for this course especially, we have not saturated the market of students yet. We don't know if there's unmet demand, but we do know that we have not saturated the market with courses. So either we are right exactly where we need to be offering course opportunities, or we're not offering enough and getting meeting the demand for cable restraint that exists out there. It's pretty encouraging to see that since about 2012, we've seen some growth in not only the number of courses, but the number of student graduates. So cable restraint interest is alive and well. Next, we have successful fur taking. This started in 2009. Since then, we've certified 782 people. It includes the cable restraint program and offers the same certification to set cable devices, but it also includes instruction on land and water sets as well. And again, 221 instructors certified to teach this course type. So this is a little bit different. Now, as we move into the last two, successful fur taking and turkey hunting, we have a much smaller data set, so it's a little bit more difficult to draw conclusions based on where we are in terms of meeting the demand. But again, same graph, student graduates in blue, number of courses offered in red. We saw a peak in 2013, but it declined in 2014, probably as a result of instructors choosing to teach cable restraint courses instead. This is the only program that there isn't a significant correlation between student grads and courses held. And last but not least, we have successful turkey hunting. It's the newest program. It began in 2011. Since then, we've certified 668 people, and currently we have 179 instructors certified to teach this course type. Here's the graph for this. Again, we had a peak in 2013, but a decrease last year in 2014, probably as a result of some courses being canceled due to lack of enrollments. I believe Commissioner Daly, you had a course last year that was canceled due to lack of enrollment.
Yeah, we only had 6 people signed up.
Yep, we'll talk about some of those. So next, hopefully you can see this, but on the left you have a graph of advanced course class opportunities and a graph on the right of advanced course student graduates. And if you look at those two graphs, they're so similar in how they change over the years. That just shows the correlation between class opportunities that we offer and the number of student graduates that we're able to put out. But again, something really important to note is that this does not account for the classes that were canceled due to lack of enrollment. That's difficult to pin down on a year-to-year basis. So again, what this tells us is that we haven't saturated the market for most of our programs. But again, we don't know if there is unmet demand or how much unmet demand there is for each program. So here are some challenges that we face. The first one is competition for our audience. So when I say audience, the people that we're targeting with the advanced series of courses is people with some hunting experience who are looking to be more successful and to learn more about their particular facet of hunting that they're interested in. So the challenge to that, and it's unique to the advanced courses, is that we have to compete for our audience with all of the other sources of information that are out there trying to do the exact same thing. So for HTE, it's a certification that they need, and they can only get it from us. As far as this information goes, people, when they're looking to be better or to learn more about a subject where they don't need a certification, they want it now, they want it quick, and they only want it if they need it. So without a legal requirement, there's a lot of other places where they can get that information. If, for example, they want to learn more about turkey hunting, they could take our course, or maybe Matt Moret is offering a 1-hour turkey calling seminar at Bass Pro. Those are the things that we're competing with for these people's attention. Next, the locations are limited by course requirements. What I mean by that is that our advanced courses tend to be really heavy in terms of material, time, and instructors that are needed to put them on. Some require a range, and often these requirements limit the facilities that we can teach these courses at. Usually, unfortunately, it pushes the courses away from population centers where there's a lot of demand for the courses as well. Last but not least, there's limited instructor involvement. So we have quite a few instructors who are certified to teach these programs, but participate very little. So, for example, we have 179 turkey hunting instructors, but only 31 participated in a class last year. So some things that we can do to address those challenges. So first of all, increase the accessibility of the information. What are our program goals for hunter education? They're safety, responsibility, knowledge, and involvement. And the very best thing that I think we can do to meet those goals is to make our information as accessible as possible. So we are moving in the direction of online classes because they're very accessible to so many people. And it's written in the SOP that by 2018 we will have online advanced courses. We've already started down that road, and we are working on course development for a cable restraint certification class and bow hunter education that would be offered online. we're starting there because they're our two most popular courses, and they also do have a legal requirement. Bow hunting, not in our state, but there is a necessity for them to get that certification. They would supplement what we will continue to provide in person, just like the hunter trapper education course. And again, based on timelines that I've been given, we will definitely be there well before the 2018 goal. Next, promote and advertise more effectively, something we can definitely work on. We've had some success with email marketing campaigns in the past, but we need to strike a balance between who we target with the emails and the courses that are scheduled when we send the messages out. Last year we had some issues where we sent out an email blast advertising successful turkey hunting courses when there was 3 or 4 turkey courses on the landscape, and they filled within the first 20 minutes of the email going out, and you have 200,000 people who are looking for a turkey course that's not scheduled anymore. So something that we can target as far as where the courses are located and where these people are that we send the emails to, so that we're not directing people to courses that aren't even on schedule yet. Next, something we can work on as well is we can adjust the curricula and the course materials. So we can make a lot of changes to the courses that bring the amount of materials and location requirements down to a more reasonable level without sacrificing our course quality. So this way it's easier to put on a course and we have more flexibility with where and when they can be scheduled. The turkey course in particular, it needs an entire trailer of equipment. Each region only has 1 trailer, so you cannot schedule the same course, a turkey course on the same day in the same region unless you borrow a trailer from another region to pull it off. I think we can do a lot to bring the materials down without sacrificing the quality of the course. Next, we can incentivize participation in advanced courses. So we have too many instructors that have become certified, but they never wind up participating in teaching a class. Something we've looked into so far and discussed is a reduced cost general hunting license for HTE instructors. So far, that is a bill, it's been introduced, but it has not passed committee, so we'll see where that goes. But I think that would be a great step towards incentivizing participation in our hunter-trapper education program, and there's a lot we can do as well to incentivize participation in advanced programs as well. And last, coordinate the scheduling of these classes. Like I said, with the turkey course having so many materials that need to be moved and having only 1 trailer per region, we need to maximize our efficiency to fill these courses. Very similar to how we teach HTE with the strategic scheduling using analytics of where these people are looking. We finally have enough data because we have far fewer people looking for advanced courses. We finally have enough data to sort of draw conclusions and start to build a schedule where student demand is and when it is when we're scheduling our advanced courses. So, and I believe one of the issues with your course, Commissioner Daly, was we had classes scheduling on top of one another. I believe there was one at the same time in the Southwest, which you were competing for students for that one as well. So
20 miles away.
Yep. All things that we can improve on. So that is all I have for you. I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Well, I think one thing on at least looking at those turkey numbers, I'm most familiar with those. So you get 179 instructors and 668 people have ever taken the course.
Yep.
Including that 179 instructors.
Correct.
So you take off that, you really had only 500 people that have ever taken the course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that instructor ratio is ridiculous, and the cost, like you said, I mean, we have a
Right.
whole trailer full of stuff.
Right.
The fact that 31 instructors were involved, I always used 8 in our course. So one course would have used 8 people, because we put 2 at each skill station. So how many courses really got pulled off, and is it really worth retaining if we don't have a market for it? I mean,
Right.
I guess, you know, you say, what's the solution? The solution may be to stop it. I don't know, I'm just asking the question, because certainly from a cost-effective standpoint, it's not cost-effective.
Yeah. Staff time alone, I believe, the number was about $150 per student that it cost us to put through that program.
Yeah, and we're charging them 15.
Right.
So. It's sad, it's a great course.
Great program, no doubt.
But, you know, if we can't figure out a way to get people who want to come, other than other instructors that are not well certified.
Yeah, and conversely, if you move to an online basis, there's so little overhead. You have the upstart cost, but once you're there,
But what you lose is the hands-on.
you lose the hands-on.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
literally these people get to go out and pattern their own shotgun. They get to go out and look at turkey sign that's out in the woods. You know, I mean, there's some things you can do online, but there's other things that really you have to touch it, feel it,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and that's what they'll lose.
And I think that's an advantage we have over our competition for those people's attention, is that we do offer the skills. That's tough to find out there, is someone who's actually gonna show you, I'm gonna show you how to pattern a shotgun and estimate distance and turkey
How to,
call.
how to use turkey calls.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, but- And then there was plans at one time to have more of these, so are we kind of like
Yes,
holding off till we figure out how to fix what we got?
That's correct, yeah. Definitely won't be implementing anymore until we take a look at it, and this is, really helped us put everything on the table, look at the numbers, look at where we want to go. As Andy said, in the strategic plan, it pushes us to look at more online courses, so we're going to look at taking the existing courses we have and move them in that direction. That would be our priority as opposed to expanding what courses we are going to offer.
Andy, not to put you on the spot off the top of your head, but with the online regular hunter-trapper education course, how's that working out?
great success so far. Since it launched in February, we've had 2,344 graduates, but that's out of 6,649 registrations. So either these people are still waiting around to finish their certification, and when we add enough, we're actually able to send an email to these people who have registered but not completed and said, hey, you know, you started the course, but you didn't complete. If you're interested, get back into it, here's how. And again, we really haven't seen anything yet. We're not anywhere close to what we consider crunch time for people getting into the online course, but it's encouraging, because this is, even in the 6 months we've had this is much more than we've ever had in the independent study course for an entire year's worth of data. So there's definitely demand for it.
And at some point, I think I'd like to see after the hunting season, where we are as far as the number of increases in the HTA course. From just a standard course, now that we've added the online course, have we gained numbers that way?
Yeah.
That would be something interesting to look at, or if we're just, again, transferring them from an in-house course to an online course.
Right, that would be the question. Will we be taking people who would have gone anyway?
Right.
I would say that anecdotally, the comments we're getting back are more so from people who said, I've been wanting to take a class for years. I'm an adult. I'm not going to sit with a bunch of 12-year-olds, but I will take an online class.
Right.
Like, that's probably the most prevalent comment we receive.
You
Now, how
have to
that
be at
plays
least
out.
16, right, Steve?
They have to.
take the
They
online,
have to,
right.
yep.
But interestingly, that is a very, very tiny portion. Between 16 and 21, it's a fraction of the people who are taking it. Most of them are in their 20s and 30s.
Thanks, sir.
Any other questions on Hunter Trapper Ed? Okay. If not, we'll move to the next presentation. And Corin Jagnell is going to be doing a presentation on some research that she's done. Corin is the division chief for research and education. The data that she's going to show you is a summary of a survey she's recently completed looking at active hunters, which we define as individuals who purchase a hunting license 5 out of 5 years versus less active, 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5. The numbers that she's going to give, eventually this all can be used for purposes of developing tools and managing in a way that recruits and retains hunters. So without any further ado, Corin.
Okay, thank you. And this will be just today, the beginning of the presentation. It's 2 different surveys that we did of our active and less active licensed buyers. And today I'm looking specifically at license purchase frequency and its relationship to hunter demographics, initiation, and behavior. So as Steve mentioned, the active hunters were people who purchased 4 or 5 times, and this began with the 2009-10 season. So at the end of the 13-14 season, we had 5 full years of PALS data, so that that point everybody had been required to have a CID in PALS for 5 years. And so we wanted to take a look at how our active hunters differed from our less active hunters. So anybody that we considered less active purchased 1, 2, or 3 times. We used an identical methodology for both questionnaires, but some of the results we have are different even just from the beginning. For that first questionnaire, we see the people who purchased 4 out of 5 years were 12.5%. So 7 times as many of them were 5 out of 5 years. So those 100% purchasers made up a very large percentage of that active hunter survey. And we decided to send it out to a very large sample of 25,000 people so we could post-stratify if we were interested in looking at people based on their age, their gender, if they lived in a rural versus metropolitan area, anything like that. So we did send out a large number. We got about 50% of those back. So we have over 11,000 usable surveys for the analysis, which also gives us very precise estimates. So it's plus or minus 0.9%, so even more precise than plus or minus 1% for that active hunter survey. For the survey of people who purchase 1, 2, or 3 times, so between 20 and 60% of the time out of those 5 years, we're much more evenly distributed, right around a third each for the 1, 2, and 3-year purchasers. Identical methodology, but we have a lower response rate of 30%, and that includes removing people. We had a lot of deceased hunters, a lot of mail sent back or people calling in to tell us that, or a lot of bad addresses as well. So people that may be in a more transient population are those that are in this less active hunter group. But either way, we still have, again, very precise estimates. It's plus or minus 1.3% for confidence interval there. So we see, first our active hunters. So we have their area of residence, not a surprise at all. People tend to live in either small towns or rural areas. I think that's something we would have expected. For the gender distribution, we have 94% male, but already we can start to see a difference between our 4-year and 5-year purchasers. So we have about 10% female for the 4-year, which is significantly higher than the 5% female for the 5-year purchasers. Next, we look at the average age of just under 53 years old, and again, there's already a difference between these 80% purchasers compared to 100%, that the 5-year purchasers are significantly older than our 4-year purchasers. And next, we will look at these less active hunters. So we see the area of residence, it's similar, but we already see a significant difference in that a larger percentage of our less active hunters live in the suburbs. So we have a slightly more metropolitan residency for our less active hunters compared to the rural farm percentage was higher for our active hunters, significantly more living on a rural farm for those people who were active hunters. The gender distribution, it's a significantly higher percentage of women in this less active group. And then you really see that difference again for the 5-year purchasers compared to everyone else. And then we have the average age is significantly younger for these less active hunters than the active hunters. So we have just right around 49 years old there as well. Marital status. This was a place I don't know that we would have expected to see the difference quite as big as it is. So first we see a larger percentage of our less active hunters are single, never married. And that could be partially because they are younger, but that is a pretty big difference there. So around 24% of our less active hunters are single, never married, and that's right there compared to 15.7%. But the next one is really kind of interesting too. We see our active hunters, 72% of them are married. Compared to just 62% of our less active hunters. And then all the other 3 types of either separated, divorced, or widowed, there's no significant difference between our active and less active hunters. This is a place where there is no difference between 2 groups. And that 70% of both groups that have no children living in the household, that was a little higher than I might have expected to see. But again, no difference between the 2 groups. And the one thing is that they were asked if there were children under the age of 18. So 70% of these people have no children there, even if they would obviously be old enough to hunt. So it's maybe just the presence of them alone, or it just may be just the way the regular demographic breakdown is. Education, there's been some surveys done on the national level that generally shows that hunters have a slightly lower level of education than the general population, and we just see here that our active hunters tend to have a lower level of education. They're significantly more likely to have not finished high school or have their highest level of education be a high school graduate, whereas people with some college are more likely to be our less active hunters. All right, so now we get into a little bit more of their hunter behavior. So we take a look here at who first took you hunting, and these categories for this question were not mutually exclusive, so that just meant we had a variety of categories and just say check all that apply. So you could have gone with your dad, your grandpa, your uncle, someone else. But in this case, and not a surprise, for our active hunters, nearly 70% of these people first went with their father. This was followed by their uncle, then a friend, then their grandfather. One other thing that's probably worth pointing out, that female relatives played almost no role in that initial hunting experience. And then we look at our less active hunters, and it's similar. The groups that they went in are all in the same ranked order, but a slightly smaller percentage, and it is significant, of the less active hunters went with their fathers, so more like 60% compared to about 66% of our active hunters. Then this again is followed by the uncle, the friend, and then the grandfather. Okay, and then we look at the age in which they were initiated into hunting. Not a surprise again, here our active hunters first started when they were 12 years or younger, 65% of them, so about 2/3 of them. When we include that 13 to 16 category, we have 86% of our active hunters started hunting before they were even eligible for an adult license. So we see that. I don't know that that's a big surprise to anybody, but I think it's interesting then when we look at our less active hunters that we have 53% of them started at 12 or younger, so 12% difference. So our active hunters were more likely to start at 12 or younger, whereas our less active hunters were more likely to start at that 13 to 16 age group. And so that obviously shows already that initiation, and it could even be that presence, again, of having the father around to take the kids hunting. But obviously, even starting before adulthood isn't only crucial, but even where in their adolescence they begin. And we see finally a larger percentage of people just beginning as adults, and that 20 to 29 age group being significantly higher for the less active hunters. One of the questions here we just asked about their hunting behavior. How do they usually hunt? So we have no significant difference between the active and less active hunters in saying they almost always hunt by themselves, right around 13% for both. We see right around 15% for both saying I hunt by myself and with others equally. The first time we see a difference is it depends on the species I am hunting, some by myself and some with others. We see active hunters are significantly more likely to say that. In that case, it could be more based upon the appropriate behavior for the hunting as opposed to their comfort level or something like that with being by themselves or with others. Next, no difference between I occasionally hunt by myself, but usually hunt with other people. And then finally, this is probably the one worth mentioning the most here is I always hunt with other people. 30% of our less active hunters say they always hunt with other people, and that is significantly higher than the 16% of active hunters. And I think that one thing there is, we don't know if it's motivation, we don't know if it is confidence in being in the woods on their own, or if it's they require an invitation, or they only have access if there was someone else. But right there, that might be one thing that we could even focus on. Now, a lot of these things are tough, to get someone hunting before the age of 12 obviously means that this is a culture of hunting, but maybe this comfort of and confidence in hunting by themselves might be one of those things. Next, we look at hunter satisfaction, and this is something we talk about a lot. And I often hear, just between different conferences and other human dimensions professionals that they talk about hunter satisfaction sometimes being synonymous with license sales. Well, I decided we would ask in this case, how would you rate your satisfaction with hunting in Pennsylvania? And we see the very first thing I think we should note here is the mean score. So this was measured on a 5-point scale, 1 being extremely dissatisfied, 5 being extremely satisfied. And we see, although these mean scores are very similar, we do have a higher mean score for our less active hunters. And then the places where there's a significant difference is in the dissatisfied. We see significantly more active hunters are dissatisfied than less active hunters. And then finally, that extremely satisfied category, we have 12.3% of our less active hunters are extremely satisfied compared to just under 10% of our active hunters. So I think this is just, it's not to say that hunter satisfaction is important, but I think we now need to separate that from license purchase. And there's a lot of reasons why this could be the case. When you're talking about satisfaction, it's not just the experience one has, it's also their expectations. And so these more active hunters may have had many satisfying experiences in the past, and they base their future ones or their current ones on that, and that's why they maybe have lower satisfaction with it. Another question that I asked that was related to this, because when we do talk to hunters and we see sometimes that they're dissatisfied with whatever it may be, if it's with regulations, with seasons, with game populations, you can always tell that it's important to them. And so we ask them, how important is hunting to you? So we see a significant difference in every single one of these, but it just changes. We see those that say it's not at all important. Not a surprise. Our active hunters, only 2% say that, compared to 10% of our less active hunters. In the somewhat important category, we have 20% of our active hunters saying that it is somewhat important, compared to 32%. Important, this is where things start to change, that the active hunters have a higher percentage saying it's important, and then finally, that extremely important, we have 32.5% of our active hunters say it's extremely important to them in their lives compared to less active hunters. So these are two of the separate things that obviously all of these things go into a satisfying hunting experience and to a degree into their license purchase, but I think that it's just important to remember that all of these things are separate, that they're not all synonymous with, consistently purchasing a license or being a satisfied hunter. But one of the things when I was doing this that kind of stuck out to me a lot was taking a look at these 5-year purchasers, that as we get more years of PALS data, I think that these people who purchase 100% of the time is somebody that we're going to consistently want to take a look at and see how they differ from other hunters. So the first thing about these 100% of the time purchasers, they are significantly older. So we see they're about 53 years and 3 months old. They're about 95% male. 65% of them started hunting at the age of 12 or younger, and 2/3 of them first went hunting with their fathers. 70% of them have no children living in their household, and that's not really different than any of the other hunters. But currently, 74% of them are married, and even compared to our 4-year hunters, we see that 63% of our 4-year hunters are married. So that was just something there that was not necessarily something any of us would have anticipated. We see 47% live in a rural area. 78% of these 5-year purchasers describe hunting as either important or extremely important to them, whereas only half of them say they're satisfied with hunting in Pennsylvania, and 9% of them are extremely satisfied. And then finally, this hunting behavior, 14% always hunt by themselves, and that's not significantly different from our 4-year licensed buyers, where 12% do. But 15% of these 5-year purchasers always hunt with others, compared to 27% of 4-year purchasers, which that number is significantly different there as well. So just a summary, we just have a larger percentage of our active hunters are male compared to the less active. So our less active groups tend to have a higher percentage of female hunters. 60% of both groups describe themselves as satisfied or extremely satisfied with hunting in Pennsylvania, but generally our less active hunters are more satisfied. 77% of our active hunters and 58% of our less active hunters say hunting is either important or extremely important to them. And then the majority of both groups were initiated into hunting by their fathers at a young age, but our active hunters generally started earlier than the less active hunters. So I certainly can answer any questions. Yes?
Were there any open-ended questions to ask some of these ones that only purchase 1, 2, 3 years? Why they do that? Just why?
We have a lot more questions to this. These are both rather long questionnaires, and they were identical with the exception of with our less active hunter survey. We did ask some of the reasons why they don't purchase every year. It's really hard when you're sending out 25,000 questionnaires to do something open-ended. Ideally, you would have done some sort of qualitative methods where you would have an idea as to what all the options would be. So that's, Steve and I had talked about maybe me doing this, something from parts of the survey over the next few working groups that, next time I maybe talk about motivations. We asked some specific questions. I didn't scratch the surface with that. There's a lot more information, but we did look at that. I just don't have that here with me right now, but we did look at some of the causes.
So were there like subcategories of satisfied, dissatisfied, or is it just, are you satisfied with your hunting experience?
It was just satisfied hunting in Pennsylvania is what this was, yeah.
Any other questions?
I guess the main question I would have is we have now a profile of the hunter that buys a license every year.
Right.
So what do we do with that?
Well, that's like I said from the beginning, if we're going to use this data for management purposes, we have to first establish the baseline data, and that's getting us to there. So now we can know what our active hunter looks like. Where we go from it, how it is used for recommendations when it comes to seasons of bag limits, when it comes to marketing campaigns, the possibilities are endless. But first we need to know what our hunters look like, what motivates them, how do you connect to them. Certainly the fact, if nothing else, the fact that if you were introduced to hunting at an early age, you're more likely to be an active hunter. 86% were introduced to hunting before they were 17. Are there things that we can do to help them in that process, to help those in those early teen years get introduced to hunting? And if so, we should be promoting them. So this can be used for management purposes as we move forward.
I guess we ought to encourage people to get married too, right?
And stay married. Yeah, if you were cynical, you could point out the correlation between marriage and active hunters, but I won't make those comments.
I'll make them for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? That's all we have, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks, Steve.
That's it. You tried it.
Ready?
I don't have it, it's okay.
Got one.
Are we going to have any executive meeting or anything? Are we done for the day or?
We're done.
You're almost there.
The only thing is your research on the appropriate time for the January meeting. January
Yeah, you want to pick that date?
31st.
Yeah, the date, according to his schedule right here, which is corresponding with other years on a non-football weekend, for those of you that care about that, would mean that we would have our January meeting on Sunday, January 31st, February 1st and 2nd, which is a calendar goes a little later than other years, but that's what fits on the schedule. So I would suggest that that be on our agenda the next time for approval.
That's it.
And do you want to announce anything about our meeting next time, where it is?
Matt, would you announce where our meeting is next time?
Sure.
And all the details. You might as well announce the Elk Expo too.
Well, the Elk Expo, which is at the Keystone Elk Country Alliance Visitor Center, is next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, the 15th and 16th, I believe. Pretty much runs all day, both days, 15th and 16th. On the 15th at 1 o'clock, we draw the regular elk licenses, the statewide drawing for those. And on the 16th, they have the Kika elk raffle drawing. And both of those drawings are at 1 o'clock. So the next commission meeting will be held in Du Bois, Pennsylvania. It's the September commission meeting. And it's going to be on Monday the 27th and Tuesday the 28th. Same time as always, we'll start at 8:30 on both days up at Du Bois.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
North Central will be hosting.
Yes, it's all up to Barry Zafuto.